All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about what Jaron Ennis' trainer had to say about Errol Spence Jr. and Canelo Alvarez before the fight and how true it is after the fight. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. We are going to talk about Canelo Alvarez and the multi-million foot $55 million he turned down to fight Errol Spence Jr. What BOZY Ennis, the trainer of Jaron Ennis, had to say about that. And now that the fight is over, a little truth that I hope many people can see. Before I get into that, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are a longtime subscriber, thank you so much for your support on the channel. If you're new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit that subscribe button and then select the bell icon so you can get all notifications so you know when we release more videos and when we do our live streams. All right, so we know that this weekend that Canelo Alvarez lost to Beterbiev in lopsided fashion. And he did so not because the man, in my opinion, not because the man was bigger than him, not because the man was stronger than him, but because the man had faster hands than he had, and the fact that he had a better endurance than Canelo did, and he had better footwork than Canelo Alvarez did, or foot speed, and he knew exactly what it was that Canelo Alvarez was trying to accomplish in the fight, because Canelo Alvarez fought the same fight against him that he has been fighting pretty much since Gennady Golovkin 2, and most certainly that he has been doing since he fought Callum Smith, which is plodding forward, throwing big shots at the man's arms, hoping that the man's arms will eventually come down so that he can then load up on other shots and connect with him and get a spectacular knockout. That was the game plan of Canelo Alvarez for Billy Joe Saunders. It was the game plan. It was the game plan for Callum Smith, Rocky Fielding, Beterbiev, and more than likely it's going to be the game plan for the next guy that he fights. However, he may show a little bit more urgency and try to get at it a little bit quicker. But at this point in time, I do believe that is what Canelo Alvarez is, because that's the phase of his career that Canelo Alvarez is in. Canelo Alvarez has 60 fights. He has been a professional fighter for 18 years, and that wear and tear is on him, and that's just what it is. That is what it is for all boxers. When you put that much work in, your body starts breaking down. It is harder, and not just your chronological age, but the amount of punishment that you've taken. And also, by the way, if you want to compare that with boxers previously, guys that would do, and when it was the norm to have 60 fights when you were 30 years old, because you didn't have a long amateur career, you were pretty much fighting in the professional ranks since you were 18 years old and fighting 5, 6, 7 times a year for, 5 times a year for 10 years, right? That's what old school fighters used to do, right? Canelo was brought up in old school fashion that way. And as a result, he has progressed and aged in an old school fashion, where you hit your peak somewhere around 24, 25, 26. And by the time you get to be 32, 33, 34 years old, you are an old fighter. So BOZY Ennis, who is the trainer, father and trainer of Jaron Ennis, said before the fight with Beterbiev, and said when they talked about the $55 million that Canelo Alvarez passed up to fight Errol Spence Jr., he said, he was like, I give Errol Spence Jr. a good chance to beat Canelo Alvarez. Thought that he could beat him and said so. Right now, why would he say so? Because of the fact that and this is what I'm concluding, because the fact that BOZY Ennis has been around boxing a long time and probably saw some of the things that I told you. Canelo Alvarez's problem is dealing with people that have speed and having hand speed. If you look at everybody that beat Canelo Alvarez or had a success against Canelo Alvarez, they had success against Canelo Alvarez because they had better hand speed, they had good movement, and they made Canelo Alvarez miss. And Canelo Alvarez was looking for shots, and the shots were not there while they were able to score and rack up rounds. That is what happened with Austin Trout. That's what happened with Erislandy Lara. That is what happened with Floyd Mayweather Jr. That is what happened, and that is definitely what happened with Dimitri Bivol in that last fight. The only guy that I would say is an exception to that rule is Gennady Golovkin, where Gennady Golovkin had a lot of power and was constantly pressuring Canelo Alvarez in that first fight and making Canelo Alvarez, because he's loading up on all those shots and because he has so much muscularity to him, tires out more easily and was able to put in a good fight against him there. If you look at Errol Spence Jr., dude, Errol Spence Jr. can fight like a combination of the two of those styles. Number one, he's very, very active. Very active. He's got very good fundamentals, and he can fight on the inside and the outside. Provided he doesn't get hit with some really big shot with Canelo Alvarez, he has a legitimate chance to win that fight. And he had a legitimate chance to win that fight before Canelo Alvarez showed his age in the Dimitri Bivol fight. And I'm telling you, man, it would probably be smarter for Canelo Alvarez to move down and fight in that, because he's not going to be able to fight up in that 175 pound weight division, because those guys are going to be, the Beterbiev is going to be doing the same thing. He's going to bring the same amount of pressure to Canelo Alvarez, except for the difference between Dimitri Bivol and Arthur Beterbiev is that Arthur Beterbiev is a much bigger puncher. Now, Arthur Beterbiev is also older, right? Like, I think he's like 38 years old. He may be getting close to 40, so there may be some slowdown to that. But more than likely, that fight's not going to be made for another reason, which is that Canelo Alvarez is not going to get paid the type of money. He's not going to get that type of money by Bob Arum, and Bob Arum is not going to give 3 belts up to fight Canelo Alvarez and have all of those belts disappear and go wherever Canelo Alvarez goes. Bob Arum is the type of guy that takes options on fighters and says, okay, I'll fight you. We'll fight as long as I get the next 2 fights, and I know that I'm going to be making money for the next 2-3 fights, regardless of whether my guy wins or loses. And that's not the type of deal Canelo Alvarez is going to be setting. That Bivol fight, that's a loss for him. If he stays down there at 168, you got David Benavidez. I'm telling you, I think David Benavidez at this point in time is licking his chops looking at Canelo Alvarez. I'm telling you, it's a lot of trouble for him right about now at 168 against that level of competition. Now, if he goes and fights somebody like, John Ryder or maybe has a rematch with Callum Smith, then yeah, it could probably be a go. But I'm telling you, Canelo is not going to get any younger. And if he fights Errol Spence Jr., and if they actually make that fight, whether it's a catch weight at 164 or whether it's at 168, I'm telling you, there's a significant chance that he's going to lose to that more fresh, much more active, very, very skilled fighter. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.